war criminal BB speaks to captive audience, excited at prospect of more dead brown children. 86 Dems and 1 rep boycott. Kamala isn't there. Massive tests in DC. Brandon speaks later tonight. Later, he's not dead. If you took the day off, something funny would have happened in DC. Just saying. Okay, chill. 100 plus Congress interns are boycotting Netanyahu's address today, citing constituent demands. The overwhelming demand is clear. Prime Minister Netanyahu must be held accountable for his crimes against humanity. It's our moral obligation, bro. They're interns. Like, come on now. Anyway. All right, that's a good blast off meme. Let's freaking go. Feder bitch update. Yeah, Thomas Massey's also boycotting. Yeah, that's why I said 1 Republican and 86 Dems. Anyway. War criminal BB speaks to captive audience with the prospect of more dead brown children. Kamala isn't there. Mass protests DC. Brandon speaks later. He's not dead. What else was I going to talk about today? There's a lot of stuff to cover today, dude. Chris Tyson. Weird text messages. I like into it last night because I was like, the fuck is going on? Everyone apparently was yelling at me online on Twitter because I'm like specifically avoiding covering it, and not because like sanely important things that are happening in the world. So of course we'll talk about that. Dude, stop drinking medicine straight from the bottle, bro. I'm sipping lean. You know what I mean? Literally once in a generation history is happening. Yeah, shit that's gonna be covered in history textbooks. You know what's not gonna be covered in history textbooks? What happened with the Mr. Beast franchise? Okay, like, excuse me. I don't think that's going to be a part of. I don't think that is going to be. Again, we're not going to be looking back decades later and being like, yeah, Hassan really didn't cover that situation quick enough. And these motherfuckers did this with Cody Code too. It's like, bro, I'm sorry. Okay, I have like a finite amount of bandwidth. Do you understand? Like. Oh, the funniest part about it is that like the Tyler the Creator meme about like, oh, how the fuck is online bullying real? Like just close the internet or close your goddamn monitor is so real, because like I never see any of this shit now that I don't have Twitter on my phone, so I'm not like death spiral scrolling on a regular basis, which is why, oh fuck, this gross piece of shit monstrous scumbag is already shaking hands. But anyway, last thing I was gonna say in terms of that like drama coverage and all the people that like immediately went from like, oh, you don't care about the victims, to like, okay, well the victim was paid off and that's why they're saying they weren't groomed, to Hassan, why aren't you covering this? Like, you're such a hypocritical piece of shit in like a matter of 3 minutes. Like, the story moved down so fast, it's crazy. I'll eventually cover it, of course, if I have time today. But I mean, it's weird and gross text messages, for the record, or DMs, like unacceptable. Don't talk to children. The fuck is going on? How is this like a thing that? How is this a thing that we just have to have a conversation over on a regular fucking frequency? It's wild to me. But you know, that's my number one reaction. AP stream is ahead. I don't care. We'll watch it on this one. I'm so mad. It has nothing to do with the YouTube thing. I'm mad at this. This is disgusting. This is 100% the equivalent of like putting up, I'm straight up saying it. This is literally being like, yo, Adolf, come talk. Like, come talk, please, at the US Congress. And it's wild that this was a bipartisan invite from Chuck Schumer, who like a month prior to this, prior to inviting him alongside Michael Johnson, Michael Penis, had literally said he's awful and we have to replace him with fucking Benny Gantz. So I got all the smoke today. You know, listen, we're gonna be Israel posting today. Okay, I'm gonna be talking about Israel. So I know that that's like something that a lot of fucking fair weather Democrats who only talk about want to talk about progress but never want to talk about this issue. You're gonna hear a little bit about that. Okay, so buckle in. Oh, bad news. What was the bad news? I mean, aside from this fucking warmongering piece of shit with an arrest warrant application out right now at the International Criminal Court speaking to the U.S. Congress, the other bad news is Kamala Harris is potentially looking into Pete Buttigieg. And that's horrible. That's like tomatoes. I'm throwing tomatoes, okay? Please don't do that. Please don't fucking do that. That's a horrible idea. Anyway, let's get started.
Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, Senator Ben Cardin, Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, Senators, members of Congress, distinguished guests. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank you for giving me the profound honor of addressing this great citadel of democracy for the fourth time. We meet today at a crossroads of history. Our world is in upheaval. In the Middle East, Iran's axis of terror confronts America, Israel, and our Arab friends. This is not a clash of civilizations. It's a clash between barbarism and civilization.
Gross, gross, piece of shit.
It's a clash between those who glorify death and those who sanctify life.
Bro, dude, you are the barber. You are the barbarism. You are doing the barbarism.
For the forces of civilization
40,000 in a conservative
America
estimate.
and Israel must stand together.
They're clapping for him!
Because when we stand together, something very simple happens. We win, they lose.
It's going to be so hard for me not to say terms of service violations right now. Like every fucking person, they're giving him a standing ovation the entire time.
And my friends, I came to assure you today of one thing. We will win. Ladies and gentlemen, like December 7th, 1941, and September 11th, 2001, October 7th is a day that will forever live in infamy. It was the Jewish holiday of Simchat Torah. It began as a perfect day, not a cloud in the sky. Thousands of young Israelis were celebrating at an outdoor music festival. And suddenly, at 6:29 a.m., as children were still sleeping soundly in their beds in the towns and kibbutzim next to Gaza, suddenly heaven turned into hell. 3,000 Hamas terrorists.
Yeah, he's gonna do gory details of October 7. He's gonna lie about some of the things that happened. Of course, he's not gonna bring up the fact that the IDF also messed up majorly, and that he is seen as like part of the reason why October 7 happened, like how it was ever allowed to happen. We're not even gonna get to any of that real shit. He is a monstrous piece of shit.
They raped women.
Yeah.
They beheaded men. They burnt babies alive.
None of that is real!
They killed parents in front of their children and children in front of their parents. They dragged 255 people, both living and dead, into the dark dungeons of Gaza. Israel has already brought home 135 of these hostages, including 7 who were freed in daring rescue operations. One of those freed hostages, Noor Gamani, is here in the gallery, sitting near my wife, Sarah. On the morning of October 7th, the entire world saw Noah's look of desperation as she was violently abducted to Gaza on the back of a motorcycle. I met Noah's mother, Leora, a few months ago. She was dying of cancer. She said to me, "Prime Minister, I have one final wish. I wish to hug my daughter Noah one last time before I die." 2 months ago, I authorized a breathtaking commando rescue operation. Our special forces, including a heroic officer named Arnon Zmora, who fell in this battle.
You guys are mentally ill.
Noah and 3 other hostages.
If you think we're mentally ill for saying that, like, a person who is designated as a war criminal, okay, who has been responsible for the death and destruction of an entire fucking area filled to the brim, an open air prison filled to the brim, 40,000 dead, the majority women and children. If we think that that guy is a piece of shit and that makes us mentally ill, then yeah, I guess we're fucking mentally ill. We're the ones who are mentally ill. You're right. Like, this is equivalent to Adolf Hitler giving a speech and the American Congress giving him a standing ovation. Like, straight up. It's insane. There is no world in which this would like ever
Many
happened.
hostage
The only
families are also here with us today, including Eliyahu Bibas. Eliyahu Bibas is the grandfather of those two beautiful red-headed boys, the Bibas boys, toddlers. And they were taken hostage with their mother and and Eliyahu's son. The entire family was taken hostage. Two beautiful red-haired children taken hostage. What monsters. And with us also is Iris Chaim, whose son Yotam bravely escaped Hamas captivity with two other Israelis, and tragically they were killed making their way back to our lines. We have with us also the families of American hostages. They're here.
dude, this is, oh my God, I hate this. I hate this so much. But I do think, okay, here's my hopium. Here's my hopium. This is so fucking gross, and it will literally bring back attention to Gaza, because everyone was talking about in the past 7 days, in the past 2 weeks, things heated up. Since the debate, basically no one was talking about Gaza. Benjamin Netanyahu coming out and swinging for the fucking fences in the immediate aftermath of an ICJ decision that declared Israel to be an apartheid state, that Israel must immediately evacuate all the territories that it currently occupies and go back to 1967 borders. And then the ICC warrant for his application is supposed to be going through any time. When he's giving a standing ovation like this, okay, when you're giving a standing ovation like this, there are two things happen. One, people are going to be like, why the fuck does anybody care about like a foreign leader this much? What the hell is going on? So it will negatively polarize people, I think. And secondly, it will cause people to pay attention to Gaza again. It'll be in the forefront of the conversation again. And that in and of itself, I think, will have negative consequences for Israel. It'll have negative consequences for Benjamin Netanyahu. Why are you muting? Just turn it down. Because I don't fucking care. You've heard him a million times over. He's not going to say anything new. This is exactly the same fucking speech.
President Biden for his heartfelt support for Israel after the savage attack on October 7th. He rightly called Hamas sheer evil. He dispatched 2 aircraft carriers to the Middle East to deter a wider war. And he came to Israel to stand with us during our darkest hour, a visit that will never be forgotten.
Like, the dark side of this, of course, is that this causes so much more people to be anti-Semitic. Like, this is how anti-Semitism festers, okay? Also, Nadler literally called Benjamin Netanyahu a piece of shit yesterday, and he's also giving him a standing O here today. So it's like, what are you doing? Nadler, you fucking shit your diapers on a regular basis, and you're using what remains of your like battery as an 800-year-old demon to like stand up to give him claps. What are we doing here?
Have shown boundless courage. With us today is Lieutenant Avichai Reuven.
Bro, they love doing identity politics. They're so fucking conservative. They're like, yeah, look, see, we have black people in the IDF, dude. Hey, guys, don't ever look up what we did to Ethiopian Jews, okay? Please don't do that. Don't look at the sterilization operation that we engaged in.
Of October 7th,
Israel, famously not racist.
Of Hamas's bloody rampage. He put on his uniform.
Like, this man is literally a far-right Republican in terms of like American Congress. And you have Democrats clapping for him. Even on partisan boundaries, this makes no fucking sense. It's like if Donald Trump set up the concentration camps and then put like a black Customs and Border Patrol officer in a fucking State of the Union address or a State of the Congress, and every Democrat was like clapping for the black Customs and Border Patrol guy. You know what I mean? It's so fucking gross.
You heard that right? He ran 8 miles, came to the front lines, killed many terrorists, and saved many, many lives.
I think that's a reach. You think that's a reach? Benjamin Netanyahu is a far-right, he is a far-right ultra-nationalist piece of shit. He is literally more bloody. His hands are more bloody than like the average Republican almost, okay? Obviously not. America loves doing war crimes as well. But like, he is, in terms of Israeli politics, a right-wing conservative, okay? It's not a reach at all. This is identical. I'm using this analogy from American politics for all of the people who only understand American politics maybe a little bit and nothing about Israeli politics to literally comprehend what is going on here. You have bipartisan support pretty much for this fucking far-right conservative who is actively murdering children and women, okay, who is a war criminal by international standards, and he is basically the far-right conservative of his own fucking country, that where, you know, the only people to the right of him are just like literal Nazis, Jewish power party, like white power, okay, straight up, okay? And you have people wearing IDF dog tags in Congress. You have people giving him a standing O. Like the equivalent would literally be having someone from the like having Donald Trump talk about how wonderful it is that, you know, they're murdering all the migrants in concentration camps or some shit, and then have and then point to like Customs and Border Patrol officers that are participating in that project, and have Democrats go, "Thank you, sir. You're right. You really fucking restored this nation to peace and prosperity."
He was wounded in battle while protecting his fellow soldiers from a grenade. He lost his right arm and the vision in his left eye.
Look at this piece of shit. Oh, now he's in a fucking suit. I hate this fucking monster.
Within a short time, Asa will soon return to active duty as a commander of a tank company.
Wait, what? Bro doesn't have one arm. What do you mean he's going to be a commander? Are they that fucking low on resources? That's crazy, dog. That's crazy, dog.
I just learned there is a fourth hero here, Lieutenant Jonathan Ben Chamo, who lost a leg in Gaza and continued to fight.
He's like, you guys don't understand. We literally are running out of people. We're running out of people. We're running out of tanks. We're running out of people. Please. Isn't Bibi from Pennsylvania?
My friends,
yes.
These are the soldiers of Israel, unbowed, undaunted, unafraid.
Listen, you don't understand. He was bravely trying to snipe yet another child in the head, and then accidentally slipped and fell and lost his leg.
As the Bible says, Am kelavi yakum. They shall rise like lions. They have risen like lions. The lions of Judah, the lions of Israel.
Why are they clapping for any of this?
Ladies and gentlemen, men and women of the IDF come from every corner of Israeli society, every ethnicity, every color, every creed, left and right, religious and secular. All are imbued with the indomitable spirit of the Maccabees, the legendary Jewish warriors of antiquity. With us today is Yechiel Leiter, the father of one of those Maccabees. Yechiel's father escaped the Holocaust and found refuge in America. As a young man, Yechiel moved to Israel and raised a family of 8 children. He named his eldest son, Moshe, after his late father. Moshe became an exemplary officer in one of our elite commando units. He served with distinction for 2 decades while raising 6 beautiful children of his own. On October 7th, Moshe volunteered to return to combat. 4 weeks later, he was killed when a booby-trapped mine exploded in a tunnel shaft right next to a mosque. At his son's funeral, Yechiel said this: "If the state of Israel had not been established after the Holocaust, the image engraved in our collective
I know the
memory
Leiter family
would have been
personally.
the
They're
photograph
settlers.
of that helpless Jewish boy in the Warsaw Ghetto holding his hands up in the air with Nazi rifles pointed at him. But because of the birth of Israel," Yechiel continued, "because of the courage of soldiers like my son Moshe, the Jewish people are no longer helpless in the face of our enemies."
Gave the Holocaust just to be abandoned by Israel and have the genocidal state brainwash his son and then lose them to Israel's genocidal operation? I know. He's like, dude, listen, he was on his way to go fucking smell some Palestinian underwear that he found in a fucking hollowed out apartment complex, and he blew up.
Please rise so we can honor your son's sacrifice. And I pledge to you and to all the bereaved families of Israel,
I don't care.
some of whom are in this hall today.
I don't care. I'm trying so hard. I'm trying so hard not to say some shit, dude. I'm trying so hard not to be on fucking Fox News. Oh my Lord. America first, by the way. Yeah, Republicans love talking about America first, by the way. There is no world. I don't think that actual Republicans that aren't like the psychopathic biblical evangelical Protestants that think like Israel is going to bring about the rapture, outside of those guys, I don't think any Republican listens to this fucking rabid, monstrous piece of shit and watch their representatives and watch their senators get up and give more of a rabid applause to a foreign nation's leader than their own president when their own president fucking speaks, okay? This is a more rabid audience, a more bipartisan audience than when a Democratic president addresses Congress, than when a Republican president addresses Congress. This is incredible, okay? This is incredible shit. There is no better representation that America is completely bought and sold to corporate interests, that American Congress is completely bought and sold to whatever our foreign policy is going to be in the Middle East, than what you are experiencing right now. Okay? There is no way. I do not believe that like Republicans in fucking Alabama that aren't like super invested in this televangelist narrative of the rapture coming are going to look at this and go, wow, I really love that my congressperson is out there clapping like a fucking seal when this guy is saying like, we have to defend Israel. It's the most important state. Like, no shot. No fucking shot, dude.
They refuse to make the simple distinction between those who target terrorists and those who target civilians, between the democratic state of Israel and the terrorist thugs of Hamas. We recently learned from the National Security Director, U.S. Director of National Intelligence, that Iran is funding and promoting anti-Israel protests in America. They want to disrupt America.
Yeah.
So these protesters burn American flags even on the 4th of July. And I wish to salute the fraternity brothers at the University of North Carolina.
Oh, God. Oh, I'm going to throw up. Bro, this is American culture war shit. He's doing American culture war issues, brother. I'm telling you, he is just a Republican. Just a Republican, okay? He is literally doing American culture war notes.
For all we know.
Yeah, clapping USA to Israel's prime minister is so fucking funny. Yeah, no, totally.
But they're there.
Hey man, I don't know how y'all do it in Israel, but we got a thing called free speech here, okay? It's motherfucking America. This shit ain't Israel, okay? You can't fucking complain and cry about what is done to the American flag. Suck my fucking dick. Oh, the First Amendment. Constitutionally protected too, bitch ass. It's making me imagine having a fucking foreign leader coming into U.S. Congress, shitting on American citizens and having their own fucking American representatives go, hell yeah, you're right. Suck my fucking dick, you monstrous pieces of shit. You fucking cowards. All of you. Shame on every single person.
Proclaiming gays for Gaza. They might as well hold up signs saying chickens for KFC.
Gross, dude.
These protesters chant from the river to the sea, but many don't have a clue what river and what sea they're talking about. They not only get an F in geography, they get an F in history. They call Israel a colonialist state. Don't they know that the land of Israel is where Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob prayed, where Isaiah and Jeremiah preached, and where David and Solomon ruled?
Why is Hakeem Jeffries clapping at that? Why are you clapping at that, you fucking donkey?
For nearly 4,000 years, the land of Israel has been the homeland of the Jewish people. It's always been our home. It will always be our home. It's not only the campus protesters who get it wrong. It's also the people who run those campuses. 80 years after the Holocaust, the presidents of Harvard, Penn, and I'm ashamed to say my alma mater, MIT, couldn't bring themselves to condemn the calls for the genocide of Jews. You remember what they said? They said, it depends on the context. Well, let me give these befuddled academics a little context. Anti-Semitism is the world's oldest hatred. For centuries, the massacre of Jews was always preceded by wild accusations. We were accused of everything from poisoning wells, to spreading plagues, to using the blood of slaughtered children to bake Passover matzahs. These preposterous anti-Semitic lies led to persecution mass murder, and ultimately to history's worst genocide, the Holocaust. Now, just as malicious lies were leveled for centuries at the Jewish people, malicious lies are now being leveled at the Jewish state. No, don't applaud. Listen. The outrageous slanders that paint Israel as racist and genocidal are meant to delegitimize Israel, to demonize the Jewish state, and to demonize Jews everywhere. And no wonder we've witnessed an appalling rise of anti-Semitism in America and around the world.
Yeah, dude, no, this definitely won't contribute to like an appalling rise of actual anti-Semitism after Americans literally see something that they're not used to. And they're like, why is this foreign leader getting so much play? Why does he have so much motion in American Congress? You think this doesn't contribute to anti-Semitism? This is literally like an American Nazi's wet dream, okay? This is an American Nazi's wet dream. They're going to be like, they will run this over and over again to be like, see? They will take advantage of the lack of critical thinking. They will take advantage of the lack of critical thinking that the average American has on this issue. Because on the one side, on the Israeli front, Israel consistently uses Judaism as a cynical deployment, a cynical shield to be like, yeah, we're doing this for Jews around the world. Joe Biden then reiterates that point and says, not a single Jew would be safe without Israel being a Jewish ethno-state. So Americans also associate Israel with Judaism when they shouldn't. Okay? But there is no greater way to make that argument like, oh, see, look, Jews control the media. Jews control the fucking Congress. Like, look at this, is exactly what Nazis are going to say over and over and over again, especially as these fucking dickheads are giving him a standing ovation.
Who aren't getting enough food, it's not because Israel is blocking it, it's because Hamas is stealing it.
It's just, all of this is objectively a lie.
Here's another. The ICC prosecutor accuses Israel of deliberately targeting civilians. What in God's green earth is he talking about? The IDF has dropped millions of flyers, sent millions of text messages, made hundreds of thousands of phone calls to get Palestinian civilians out of harm's way. But at the same time, Hamas does everything in its power to put Palestinian civilians in harm's way. They fire rockets from schools, from hospitals, from mosques. They even shoot their own people.
Yeah,
when they try to leave.
Bro, he's literally just talking about Israel. He's literally just talking about Israel.
Listen to this. He boasted that Palestinian women and children excel at being human shields. His words, excel at being human shields. What monstrous evil. For Israel, every civilian death is a tragedy. For Hamas, it's a strategy. They actually want Palestinian civilians to die, so that Israel will be smeared in the international media and be pressured to end the war.
Bro's like, we just can't stop killing Palestinian babies, okay? We won't stop. We can't stop. And Hamas loves it. They take advantage of our fucking unimaginable violence. And the worst part about killing all of those Palestinian babies is that we look bad. People go, hey, man, why are you killing so many babies? It's really fucked up. Virtually every single thing he has said has been debunked. Every single thing he has said is either pure projection, it's Israel doing shit that he's attributing to Hamas, or they've been completely debunked. Will they bring up a Trump-style interpreter on CNN to address all of the lies he has told? I don't know.
But as for the minority,
I'm not holding my breath.
That may have fallen for Hamas's cons job, I suggest you listen to Colonel John Spencer. John Spencer is head of urban warfare studies at West Point. He studied every major urban conflict. I was going to say in modern history. He corrected me, no, in history. Israel, he said, has implemented more precautions to prevent civilian harm than any military in history and beyond what international law requires. That's why, despite all the lies you've heard, the war in Gaza has one of the lowest ratios of combatants to non-combatants casualties in the history of urban warfare. And you want to know where it's lowest in Gaza? It's lowest in Rafah. In Rafah. Remember what so many people said? If Israel goes into Rafah, there'll be thousands, maybe even tens of thousands of civilians killed.
Y'all burned an entire
last
fucking
week,
tent city
I
down.
went
Fuck you
into
mean?
Rafah. I visited our troops as they finished fighting Hamas's remaining terrorist battalions. I asked the commander there, how many terrorists did you take out in Rafah? He gave me an exact number, 1,203. I asked him, how many civilians were killed? He said, Prime Minister, practically none, with the exception of a single incident where shrapnel from a bomb hit a Hamas weapons depot and unintentionally killed two dozen people.
Two to three
The
civilians
answer
do
is
not die for one Hamas
practically
terrorist.
none.
That's
You
not
wanna
even
know
true.
why? Because Israel got the civilians out of harm's way, something people said we could never do, but we did it.
I know. The reason why Congress looks full right now, even though half the Democratic caucus is not there, is because they put seat fillers on.
The war in Gaza, they should be commended for it. I want to thank all of you here today who forcefully opposed the false accusations of the ICC and stood up for the truth. These lies are not only libelous, they're downright dangerous. The ICC is trying to shackle Israel's hands and prevent us from defending ourselves. And if Israel's hands are tied, America is next. And I'll tell you what else is next. The ability of all democracies to fight terrorism will be imperiled. That's what's on the line. So let me assure you, the hands of the Jewish state will never be shackled. Israel will always defend itself. My friends, in the Middle East, Iran is virtually behind all the terrorism, all the turmoil, all the chaos, all the killing. And that should come as no surprise.
Wait, what? Did he
When he
say
founded
Israel
the
is behind
Islamic
all the
Republic,
terrorism in the Middle East? He's right.
Ayatollah Khomeini pledged, we will export our revolution to the entire world. We will export the Islamic revolution
he
to
said
the
Iran.
entire world. Now ask yourself, which country ultimately stands in the way of Iran's maniacal plans to impose radical Islam on the world? And the answer is clear. It's America, the guardian of Western civilization and the world's greatest power.
I'm not kidding. I think Benjamin Netanyahu is more popular in America than he is in Israel. I think Benjamin Netanyahu is more popular in America than he is in Israel. And I think Donald Trump is more popular in Israel than he is in America. It's like, what is happening?
That's why Iran sees America as its greatest enemy. Last month, we heard a revealing comment, principally about the war in Gaza, but about something else. It came from the foreign minister of Iran's proxy, Hezbollah, and he said this is not a war with Israel. Israel, he said, is merely a tool. The main war, the real war, is with America. Iran's regime has been fighting America from the moment it came to power. In 1979, it stormed the American embassy. It held scores of Americans hostage for 444 days. Since then, Iran's terrorist proxies have targeted America in the Middle East and beyond. In Beirut, they killed 241 U.S. servicemen. In Africa,
Netanyahu claims
they bombed
civilian casualties
American
amount to
embassies.
practically none. He
In
says
Iraq,
Israeli force should be
they
commended
supplied
for the number of
explosives to
civilians
maim
killed.
and kill thousands of American
Okay,
soldiers.
let's see if they
In
keep that
America.
energy.
In America.
Why is chat so anti-American?
sent
Dude,
death
that's so
squad.
funny that you're saying that. Like, because we're not dick riding a fucking foreign nation. Because we're not dick riding a foreign nation's leader, absolutely just rubbing his penis on every single seat in fucking Congress as they give him a standing O behind every word in a way that they don't even do when an American president is speaking. There are more partisan protests when a fucking American president speaks and talks to its own fucking Congress. And that's anti-American? You think that's anti-American because we're not sufficiently dick riding Israel, a foreign country? The fuck is being American to you? Oh, sorry. If you do not immediately get on your knees and suck Benjamin Netanyahu's dick and balls, you are not sufficiently pro-America. Suck my dick. Yo, what up?
That's why the mobs in Tehran chant death to Israel before they chant death to America. For Iran, Israel is first, America is next. So when Israel fights Hamas, we're fighting Iran. When we fight Hezbollah, we're fighting Iran. When we fight the Houthis, we're fighting Iran. And when we fight Iran, we're fighting the most radical and murderous enemy of the United States of America. And one more thing. When Israel acts to prevent Iran from developing nuclear weapons that could destroy Israel and threaten every American city, every city that you come from. We're not only protecting ourselves, we're protecting you.
Yeah, Iran is going to invade America any day now, guys. Any day now. Like, how can you say you love this fucking nation and then simultaneously look at all of the fucking poverty everywhere? Okay? The roads are fucked. There's no infrastructure. Bridges are falling apart. You can't pay for education. Everything is too expensive. And this Congress is sending billions of dollars of weapons to a foreign state so they can actively murder more children and women. Like, think about that. How can you say you love America? How can you say you love America and then simultaneously turn around and go, and that's precisely why we got to give billions and billions of dollars to an apartheid state, even if you don't give a fuck, even if you personally don't care about all the fucking brown children that they're killing because they're brown, you should still be like, why are we giving them billions of dollars of weapons? Like, what the fuck are we doing here? Like, why are we giving them billions and billions and billions of fucking dollars? What the fuck is that about? How does that make sense in your fucking mind? If you're a Republican, how does that make sense in your fucking mind? Explain that to me, okay?
To achieve this diplomatically, but let me be clear. Israel will do whatever it must do to restore security to our northern border and return our people safely to their homes.
And before people start chirping about like, oh, see, America's controlled by Jews, you know who's getting fucking arrested outside of these halls right now? Jews, motherfucker. You know who got arrested yesterday? Jews. Jews for ceasefire. Not in our name. Okay? Jewish Voice for Peace. There are so many fucking Jewish-led groups that are anti-war and anti-Israel and anti-Zionist that are getting absolutely murked right now by American police because they're American Jews who say, not in our fucking name. Okay? And they get arrested by the hundreds. They are tear gassing the press outside right now. Okay? Without even a dispersal order given, mind you. And we're doing that for what? We're doing that for Israel. Okay? It's not for Jews. It's for Israel. Israel might claim cynically that they are doing this for Judaism, but it's absolutely unconscionable behavior that has nothing to do with Judaism whatsoever. Okay? Never forget, there are more, significantly more evangelical Protestants that are ultra-Zionist in totality in this country than there are Jewish Zionists in this country. Okay? There are 10x more evangelical Protestants that love Israel and want Israel to fucking keep being this psychotic, rabid, bloodthirsty state, specifically because they think the rapture is going to happen. 10x the number of Jews in totality, as a matter of fact. Okay? Anti-Zionist Jews and Zionist Jews combined do not even make 1/10 of the number of evangelical Protestant Christians who are rabid ultra-Zionists in this country. Okay?
I deeply appreciate America's support, including in this current war. But this is an exceptional moment. Fast-tracking U.S. military aid can dramatically expedite an end to the war in Gaza and help prevent a broader war in
U.S.
the
Capitol
Middle
Police
East.
arrest Jewish activists calling for
In
Israel
World War
arms
II,
embargo. This happened yesterday.
As Britain fought on the front lines of civilization, Winston Churchill appealed to Americans with these famous words.
Hundreds of them.
Give us the tools and we'll finish the job. Today, as Israel fights on the front line of civilization, I too appeal to America. Give us the tools faster and we'll finish the job faster. My dear friends, the war in Gaza could end tomorrow if Hamas surrenders, disarms, and returns all the hostages.
Look at that. Netanyahu's giving a smug-ass speech in Congress. Karmit Katzir, whose father and brother were murdered on October 7th and her mom kidnapped, is arrested by Capitol Police for wearing a shirt demanding Netanyahu seal the deal. Like, there are Israeli...
But if they don't,
there are Israeli-American Jews who are literally there to protest Benjamin Netanyahu, whose fucking family members have been killed on October 7th, and they're protesting Netanyahu, and we're arresting them. Okay? We are so fucking cucked, dude.
That's what total victory means, and we will settle for nothing less. The day after we defeat Hamas, a new Gaza can emerge. My vision for that day is of a demilitarized and de-radicalized Gaza. Israel does not seek to resettle Gaza, but for the foreseeable future, we must retain overriding security control there to prevent the resurgence of terror, to ensure that Gaza never again poses a threat to Israel. Gaza should have a civilian administration run by Palestinians who do not seek to destroy Israel. That's not too much to ask. It's a fundamental thing that we have a right to demand and to receive. A new generation of Palestinians must no longer to hate
Just
Jews,
open the gate.
but rather to live in peace with us.
Hey, you can put the car in.
Those twin words, demilitarization and de-radicalization, those two concepts were applied to Germany and Japan after World War II, and that led to decades of peace, prosperity, and security.
Bro, that should be that is what has to happen to Israel, my boy. That's what happens to that's what needs to happen to Israel.
Regional partners. The demilitarization and de-radicalization.
I'm trying a regular diet Dr. Pepper for the first time ever, by the way, unrelated to everything that's going on.
And peace. That's
after yesterday's shenanigans. I got a regular diet Dr. Pepper.
Now here's my vision.
Not sure if I like it.
For the broader Middle East, it's also shaped in part by what we saw in the aftermath of World War II. After that war, America forged a security alliance in Europe to counter the growing Soviet threat. Likewise, America and Israel today can forge a security alliance in the Middle East to counter the growing Iranian threat. All countries that are at peace with Israel and all those countries who will make peace with Israel should be invited to join this alliance. We saw a glimpse of that potential alliance on April 14th. Led by the United States, more than half a dozen nations worked alongside Israel to help neutralize hundreds of missiles and drones launched by Iran against us. Thank you, President Biden, for bringing that coalition together. The new alliance I envisioned would be a natural extension of the groundbreaking Abraham Accords. Those accords saw peace forged between Israel and 4 Arab countries, and they were supported by Republicans and Democrats alike. We could call, I have a name for this new alliance. I think we should call it the Abraham Alliance. I want to thank President Trump for his leadership in brokering the historic Abraham Accords.
Turns out the real unity ticket was Benjamin Netanyahu. Turns out that's the real unity ticket, boys.
Israelis were relieved that President
Trump
will
unite this country
safe and sound from that dastardly
and
attack
save the bloodlust that we have.
Dastardly attack on American democracy. There is no room for political violence in democracies. I also want to thank President Trump for all the things he did for Israel, from recognizing Israel's sovereignty over the Golan Heights, to confronting Iran's aggression, to recognizing Jerusalem as our capital and moving the American embassy there. That's Jerusalem, our eternal capital, never to be divided again. My dear friends, Democrats and Republicans, despite these times of upheaval, I'm hopeful about the future. I'm hopeful about Israel because my people, the Jewish people, emerged from the depths of hell, from dispossession and genocide. And against all odds, we restored our sovereignty in our ancient homeland. We built a powerful and vibrant democracy, a democracy that pushes the boundaries of innovation for the betterment of all humanity. I'm hopeful about America because I'm hopeful about Americans. I know how much the people of this country have sacrificed to defend freedom. America will continue to be a force for light and good in a dark and dangerous world. For free peoples everywhere, America remains the beacon of liberty its extraordinary founders envisioned back in 1776. Working together, I'm confident that our two nations will vanquish the tyrants and terrorists who threaten us both. As Israel's Prime Minister, I promise you this: no matter how long it takes, no matter how difficult the road ahead, Israel will not relent, Israel will not bend. We will defend our land, we will defend our people, we will fight until we achieve victory. Victory over liberty, rather victory of liberty over tyranny, victory of life over death, victory of good over evil. That's our solemn commitment. And we will continue to work with the United States and our Arab partners to transform a troubled region from a backwater of repression, poverty, and war into a thriving oasis of dignity, prosperity, and peace. In this noble mission, as in many others, Israel will always remain America's indispensable ally. Through thick and thin.
Here's the latest polls. Trump voters, the Israeli 60. What the fuck is this? Fuck! Trump voters say Israeli 68%. Harris voters,
Israel
Palestinians 34%. The Israelis 12%. About equal 38%.
On behalf of the people of Israel, I came here today to say thank you, America. Thank you for your support and solidarity. Thank you for standing in Israel, with Israel, in our hour of need. Together we shall defend our common civilization. Together we shall secure a brilliant future for both our nations. May God bless Israel, may God bless America, and may God bless the great alliance between Israel and America forever.
This is obviously vile, but I don't know, might have said enough to actually give cover for Dems to break on it, rebuff the peace plan, and glaze Trump on top of being a bloodthirsty monster. If the Democrats, which, by the way, in both the Senate and the House, almost the majority of the Democratic caucus did not attend this speech. They are either openly boycotting it or simply not attending it. Okay? This is very important to understand. If Kamala Harris doesn't fucking boulder Netanyahu after this speech, she was not in attendance here. If Kamala Harris does not boulder Netanyahu after this fucking speech, which, by the way, this is the second time he's done this to a Democratic administration. For all of the fucking liberals in the chat, okay, I need you to understand something. He did this shit to Barack Obama too. Republicans, back then, Republicans invited him. This time it was a bipartisan invitation, okay? He did this shit to Barack Obama as well when Barack Obama was securing the Iran denuclearization agreement, okay? A phenomenal foreign policy achievement. If this level of disrespect is not even addressed on partisan lines, okay? Not even on a moral quandary, not even on moral boundaries, not even on like, oh, it's unconscionable that this guy is a fucking bloodthirsty war criminal. Not even on those lines, but simply on partisan lines. The disrespect, the gall, the audacity that you could just sit there, be the biggest welfare state on the fucking planet, okay? And then go up to daddy and spit on daddy's face like this. No more. No more, dude. Okay? No fucking way. No how. The notion that he gets to...
That stands into contrast.
I want to see what the media coverage is going to look like on CNN, but the notion that like he gets to do this shit
on the air here, some of them are Jewish, some of them focusing their criticism on Israeli policy, not on Israel's right to exist as a state. He deflected a whole host of criticisms.
Yeah, 58 members of Congress skipped Netanyahu's speech. More members skipped it this time around.
He says that if Palestinians are not getting enough food, that is not Israel's responsibility or fault. He blames it purely on Hamas. We should note that aid groups have said that Israel has made it very hard to get not just food, but
address that shit. Call that shit out.
Into Gaza. And that right now we're seeing levels of starvation.
I'm telling you, dude. I'm telling you, this is going to have backlash. This is going to negatively polarize people, I think. This is going to make people recenter their focus on Gaza. Kamala Harris has a phenomenal opportunity to change the narrative on the Democratic Party's allegiance to Israel. Okay? Kamala Harris needs to fucking ride this and at least on the messaging front come out way strictly, way more strict on
US
Israel.
Military commanders
themselves. Kamala Harris has to go fucking maybe not balls to the wall because that requires political bravery. I don't think she has it.
U.S. President Joe Biden at times and Kamala Harris now, Vice President, of course, now the presumptive Democratic nominee for president. Two other bits of news from his speech. He used this language when describing Israel's intentions as regard the Iranian nuclear program. He said that when Israel acts to prevent Iran from getting nuclear weapons, he said when, not if. Quite a public commitment, it seemed, to potential Israeli action, perhaps military action against Iran's nuclear program. And
2015, 50 Dems in Congress boycotted the speech. Today was 136 Democrats. Netanyahu and AIPAC are losing the Democratic Party.
Or resettle, but he said that Israel must retain what he described as overriding security control there for the foreseeable future. Strident speech, one that received a tremendous amount of applause from the Republican side of the chamber. There were a number of moments there during some of those lines when you could see on the Democratic side of the chamber
Bernie boycotted,
that they were not
yes.
standing and not applauding his comments. Our panel is with.
Yeah, Hakeem Jeffries was clapping too, though. That piece of shit. That fucking piece of shit. Anyway, clapping. You'll be clapping at the top of the hour if you are already subscribed, because you won't be seeing those fucking ads. If you want to be a part of the people that don't see the ads and actually have an uninterrupted broadcast experience, then subscribe for $6 or for free with a Twitch Prime.
Parties in this country, or even to others on the Palestinian side.
Yeah, I hope John Fetterman drives him the dinner. I hope John Fetterman is driving the car with Benjamin Netanyahu. That'd be awesome, M. Hud. You're right. Here's the 3-minute ad break now.
Well, I think
I'm sorry I didn't give the best possible fucking ad break segue right now. I'm a little heated. I'm a little emotional.
in terms of strategy or tactics,
I was clapping
that he
too.
expressed,
It was a
very
great speech.
skillfully,
Cool, man.
Orchestrated political theater, actually, almost like a sports event. We win, you lose.
He's not wrong, but he's on the side
in
of
most
death
the
law. What are you
applause
talking about?
lines. What disappoints me a great deal, again, is that Netanyahu framing the existential threat to Israel as only Iran. Iran is obviously a threat to Israel, to the region. We know that. But Iran is a nation state and will have to be dealt with as a nation state in conflict and in conflict resolution. But in my eyes and in the eyes of
No,
many people,
they were trying to do a double debate, even though I already run the ad break.
throughout the world, one can make the argument that the real existential threat to a democratic Jewish state called Israel is the Palestinian issue. Because in between, and Netanyahu mentioned between the Jordan River and the Eastern Mediterranean Sea, well, let me put it in this reference point. In between the Jordan River and the Eastern Mediterranean, there are approximately 7.2 million Palestinian Arabs and approximately 7.2 million Israeli Jews. They share the land. They
Leaked
have to
UN
share
report:
the
Israeli
land.
war has killed
Neither one is
366
going
UN
anywhere.
staff and family members
And
as
so
Netanyahu
what is
prepares to
Israel's
address
future
Congress.
going to be to continue to occupy the Palestinian territories?
John Ossoff
ad
walked out of
infinitum?
Netanyahu's speech to Congress.
Because this has been,
By the way,
has proven
John
to be
Ossoff,
a disastrous
like
policy.
APAC
with
tracker
intermittent
aside,
intifadas.
APEC tracker aside, John Ossoff is a Jewish senator and has actually been pretty fucking critical of Israel. Like, that's not even a joke. No, don't say he's a rabid Zionist and is Jewish. That's not true. I don't like this at all. In terms of American congresspersons, John Ossoff has been absolutely more critical of Israel than the majority of the American Congress. You are wrong, okay? What the fuck are you talking about? Like, he was, yeah, dude. You guys are just, I don't like it when you read headlines and it corresponds to your fucking biases and then you jump to like anti-Semitic conclusions so frequently, okay? It's like talking about Douglas Emhoff and being like, well, Kamala Harris's husband is a Zionist and he's Jewish or whatever. First of all, that doesn't change the narrative at all. That doesn't change like what Kamala Harris's opinion might be on the issue at all. And speaking of which, even Douglas Emhoff, for the most part, is still a liberal Zionist and going to be much more critical than stop calling this shit anti-Semitism. Stop calling this shit anti-Semitism in a Congress where the overwhelming majority of the Christian Republican Party is infinitely more rabid in terms of their ultra-Zionist position than fucking John Ossoff, and being like John Ossoff is a hyper-Zionist or whatever the fuck is wrong. Okay? It is borderline anti-Semitic. Like your calculation has to be on par with what the normal opinion is, okay? It also misses the forest for the trees. It misses the forest for the trees. I know a lot of people get fucking mad when I do this, okay? But you're hyper focusing on what someone's ethnic background or what someone's religious background is like a fucking dumbass, okay?
That address, 9 senators not present, and the Vice President Kamala Harris not
present. It's not Chatter's fault that Israel's doing everything in its power to fuel anti-Semitism. No, this community is not one of those communities, though. Okay, that's ridiculous.
What you've seen is not the Prime Minister of Israel. You've seen the Republican senator from Jerusalem speaking to his colleagues on the Republican side. And every
I've literally had goyim in my life say the anti-Zionist Jews are feds, which is so weirdly anti-Semitic and strange that I can't figure out how we made this jump. It's the most normal American perspective, I think. Americans are so unimaginably reactionary, and like there are a lot of Christian ultra-Zionists that are so aggro, like they're so anti-Semitic
Netanyahu
and
is
so
doing it
aggro.
injustice. This was a series of 100 Chinese restaurant fortune cookies. Just a bunch of incoherent cliches laid on the table. It was filled with inaccuracies. It was mendacious. It was manipulative. But back to your question, it catered to Republicans. And you are right when you said that
The most you're going to hear from CNN is going to be liberal Zionism that's hypercritical of Benjamin Netanyahu. At this stage, it's like, I'll take it. But you have to remember something, okay? The most you're going to see is like liberal Zionism, okay? They're going to be like, oh, we hate Benjamin Netanyahu. Benjamin Netanyahu is bad. And it's true. He is bad, okay? That's like the most radical approach that you're going to hear. But the fact that they don't have like rabid ultra-Zionists on the fucking panel chirping about how beautiful this speech was is a genuine improvement in comparison to like 5 years ago, which is wild. Things have changed dramatically since October 7. The calculation has changed dramatically since October 7. Like Waleed was talking about here, in terms of like U.S. congressional support. Okay, in terms of U.S. congressional support, this is very important to take note of. Okay, in 2015, 50 Democrats in Congress boycotted Netanyahu's speech to Congress. Today, it was 136 Democrats. Okay, isn't the left protesting anti-Semitic if they against Zionists too? I don't know. No, dude. No, it is not. It is not anti-Semitic to be anti-Zionist. Okay. I think that things are changing. That's why I feel a little bit hopeful. And when I look at all the death and destruction that is happening in Gaza, I still maintain a shred of optimism.
Wrong statements that you could possibly make in a case like this. It is very clear, even though when you look at the statistics from Gaza, the Palestinians,
97% of Jews are Zionists. That's also not true.
Do not differentiate between combatants and civilians. It is still very clear that thousands of women and children have been killed in these Israeli actions. And as a result of this, anytime you do something like that as a military force, you are definitely putting yourself at risk to be sanctioned by international legal organizations such as the International Criminal Courts or the International Court of
You
Justice.
losers don't know what Zionism is. Trump is God.
Very serious
That's right.
issue
Hell yeah,
for,
baby.
in this case, the IDF. And it is really essential, I think, Jim, that
you're right,
people
brother.
Understand that everything that is being talked about here there's a real problem with some of the things that have been said, because the facts on the ground are quite simply these, that the Israelis have killed civilians, and there have been numerous casualties on the civilian side, not just a few, not just 24, as he mentioned in his
That was crazy. He said 24 civilians. That's crazy.
Military officers that he spoke to, but we're talking thousands here, and that is a serious problem.
We go, Ambassador Jerejian, the Israeli Prime Minister suggested the possibility of a broader regional alliance against Iran. He suggested the title, the Abraham Alliance, building on the Abraham Accords negotiated under President Trump. Now, there has been some tension in those diplomatic relationships in the months and years since, particularly since October 7th, given the conduct of the war. Do you see a basis for the kind of alliance that he was suggesting there?
I think it's sheer empty rhetoric on the part of Netanyahu, because what Hamas did brutally on October 7th was to raise the price of normalization of Arab countries with Israel to the point where the top Saudi officials have said that normalization with Israel will now have to be predicated on, quote unquote, irreversible steps toward the creation and establishment of an independent Palestinian state. You cannot build a so-called Abraham coalition on sand. It has to be built on dealing with the critical land for peace issues between Israel and Palestine. And that's why this is empty rhetoric on Netanyahu.
Well, you speak from experience,
also, Jim,
certainly.
may I say, Jim, also, we all know this, but one of the reasons Netanyahu cannot utter these words in terms of possible agreements with the Palestinians for a state or anything of that nature is because of his coalition, his extremist coalition. If he utters that, he risks his coalition falling apart and his losing power. And we know that one of the reasons of this trip is for him to continue to stay in power. This
is kind of good. They're panning it. They're panning it kind of hard. Like
Ambassador Derejan, Alan Pincus, Cedric Layton, thanks so much for
like
helping
these
us
are
digest.
dude, these are like Israeli, like these are ambassadors to Israel, okay? Like that is yeah, dude, hit it on partisan grounds at the most. Initial reaction from a foreign policy minded Dem, Chris Murphy. As you guys know, Chris Murphy is famous for saying, we tried to do a coup in Venezuela and Trump fucked it up. He said, a setback for U.S.-Israel relationships. Very clearly playing the Trump. Pretty extraordinary to show up to the U.S. and put yourself in the middle of an American political contest. Is that extraordinary? Is that surprising? Or is that just so perfect? Just so perfect and so normal for Benjamin Netanyahu and for Israel to do so? Okay? Like, what did you think was going to happen? That's why it was a massive misstep that this decision was bipartisan. Like Chuck Schumer, who a month prior to capitulating to the right, literally fucking said, Chuck Schumer literally said, Benjamin Netanyahu is awful. Benny Gantz is our guy. Okay. And then a month later, he was like, yeah, no, he's awful. And that's why I welcome him to address the United States Congress. He put his fucking name out there alongside Hakeem Jeffries. Okay. What an unimaginably idiotic thing to do. What a silly, stupid fucking thing to do. So stupid. So stupid. But like I said, the possible upside of this, maybe I'm on too much hopium, is that this will cause people to pay attention. This will, one, cause Democrats, I hope, to at least react and get negatively polarized from a partisan manner. Okay? That's number one. And number two, this will cause Americans to literally pay attention to Gaza again, which will force the Democratic Party's hand into making a distinction between their unconditional support and loyalty to Israel and the Republican Party's unconditional support and loyalty to Israel. Okay? Him dismissing, denying that war crimes happen in Rafah and Gaza as a whole.
Yes. The other thing that the prime minister did here was speak to all factions of the political system here in the United States. He thanked, of course, President Biden for his continued support of Israel, saying that he is a proud Zionist.
They're burning him on an effigy.
But he also, at the end of the speech, made a point to thank former President Trump for all that President Trump did for him when he was in office.
Congrats on everyone who facilitated this disgraceful campaign rally speech from Netanyahu. I hope they're proud to watch him attack American college students and freedom of speech and assembly from Congress.
While he is in the United States. So he is a very deft political actor, and he took this stage to make sure that he could speak to both of those.
This is correct.
And we should note that his praise for Biden wasn't exactly effusive. He thanked him, but then he also went on in this
Shapiro
speech,
changing views after the speech. Governor Josh Shapiro called Prime Minister Netanyahu one of the worst leaders of all time, saying the leader is steering Israel in the wrong direction.
Expedited at this time.
Yeah, he's angling
he
for a
said,
VP slot. That's why he's saying that.
And we'll finish the job, of course, quoting Winston Churchill in World War II, making that plea to the United States at the time for
This is from
weapons.
January.
So that was a notable remark that he made. We'll have to...
Never mind, he's not. He was saying that from January. That's when Chuck Schumer was shitting on him, too. I think that's literally... That, by the way, that's from January. So that's before he also came out and popped off against the college protesters in his own state. So, you know, I'll take that with a grain of salt. Don't know where his current opinion is. Bibi's speech described the reality that doesn't exist, lying about cutting off access to food, lying about civilian casualties, avoiding responsibility for 10/7 security failure and diplomatic failure to bring hostages home, seeking applause for unachievable military objectives. Just imagine what this speech looks like to the rest of the world. A leader who could never even get this kind of reception in Israel, given a platform to gaslight in Congress. Absolutely correct. Also, Dems should not be giving a platform to someone who uses it to attack all protesters, compares them to Hamas, mocks them. We should be building up a diverse coalition with energized young voters, not attacking and alienating them. Over 70% of Israelis want to move on from Netanyahu. He's a diminished figure with no answers for the current crisis, using his ability to interfere in American politics to cling to power. And yeah, here's that wacko anti-Semitic framing you rightfully predicted. To everyone watching Netanyahu's speech to Congress, now you know who controls the United States and owns your politicians. There you go. Everyone is going to chirp like this. Every alternative media platform is going to be like, see, it's the Jews. It's the Jews over and over and over again. And I don't think people are thinking about this. I don't think the Democratic Party is thinking about this. I know that Benjamin Netanyahu doesn't give a shit if anti-Semitism rises in the United States of America, because that benefits him. That way he can harden his position. That way he can reiterate the position that like Israel has to be a Jewish majority ethno state that can only be maintained through an apartheid, and that all Jews in the Western world must come back to Israel. That's his ultimate position. That's why he has, throughout his entire career that spans across multiple decades, has found himself aligning with overt anti-Semitic politicians like Viktor Orban, for example, who ran on a campaign of anti-Semitism. Okay? You need to understand. Gideon Lee, this is the most shameful session of American Congress ever. My fucking goat, Gideon.
What do you think your Prime Minister is hoping to achieve by this speech in Congress back home?
What monstrous evil for Israel.
It's all about domestic politics. It's all about...
I bet 70% of Americans don't know the difference between Jews and Zionists. Yes, those lines have been purposely blurred in an effort to control the narrative on Israel, in an effort to cynically deploy defense mechanisms of Israel. Oh, you're criticizing the Jewish state. You must be an anti-Jew, Jew hater. Okay. But now the situation is dramatically different. Since 2021, when all of the human rights organizations, from Israeli human rights organizations like B'Tselem to global American human rights organizations like Human Rights Watch and Amnesty International, when they called Israel what it actually is, an apartheid state, something shifted. Okay. Something in the world changed a little bit. And ever since 2021, ever since the month of April in 2021, when those decisions came out from global NGOs, okay, Hassan hates this one ethno state. No, I'm a hater of all ethno states. If you have an ethno state, you are a fucking fascist. If you want to maintain an ethno state, you are a fucking fascist. How dare you say such a stupid fucking thing when, as an American political commentator, I speak out against white supremacy on a daily fucking basis. I speak out against America's virulent white nativist sentiment expressed towards immigrants coming over the fucking border, because some Americans want to maintain a white demographic majority. Okay? Shut the fuck up. Following since 2022, you probably have fucking heard me say it a million different times, but you just want to cynically also deploy the, ooh, it seems like you just hate the Jewish ethno state bullshit. Anyway, there are a lot of lines that are blurred when it comes to what Zionism is. Okay? Zionism in its modern application does not mean, oh, like the Jews that are living in Israel can continue living there. Okay. That is people either cynically or who are oblivious. Okay. Genuinely muddying the distinction. Zionism means Israel has to be a ethnic majority, religious majority Jewish ethno state. Okay. That's what it is. And Israel has to maintain that through an apartheid structure. And that apartheid structure is not just my designation. I've been calling Israel an apartheid for quite some time, okay? Because it is an apartheid, okay? It is. But it's not just my assessment. It's not just my application of the word to Israel, okay? It is the entire international community, including the international organs of justice at this point. Okay? Zionists, from liberal Zionists to ultra-Zionists to the most rabid ultra-nationalists, want Israel to continue being a majority Jewish ethno state. As John Kerry once famously said, I was kicked out of my Upper West Side Facebook group for pro-Palestinian anti-Semitism, Jew-on-Jew crime, in my opinion. Yeah, that is happening all around the country, as a matter of fact. for the record, where young American Jews are looking at Israel in an entirely different way than older American Jews are. That's why I always say, like, when people go, oh, 90% of Jews are Zionists, it's like there is a muddied distinction on Zionism as a term. But if you were to ask young American Jews, they are significantly more openly anti-Zionist than any other demographic. Okay, the way they fall on the Zionism anti-Zionism distinction is identical to the rest of the country. Okay, and that is in spite of 75, not 76, because we're on the 76 years of Israel's apartheid, but 75 years of Israeli apartheid and the calculated attempts to cover for Israel's apartheid for 75 fucking years has obviously rotted the minds of a lot of boomers. Okay. And I'm not just talking about like Jewish boomers who are Zionist. I'm talking about all Americans. Okay. I remember a decade ago when I used to talk about stuff like this, it was considered unconscionable. You're an anti-Semite. You're an anti-Semite. You're an anti-Semite. You're an anti-Semite. Now that the tides are changing a little bit in the other direction, now that people are actually recognizing the inhumane actions of Israel against Palestinians, Palestinian civilians specifically, okay? Now the tide is shifting in the other direction, and all of the Zionism is just Judaism, you're anti-Semitic if you're anti-Zionist narratives are actually causing anti-Semitism to skyrocket, okay? What was once a defense, a cynical defense, a cynical application of shrouding Israel's fascist sentiment and fascist and violent actions under the auspices of Judaism is now allowing Nazis, charlatans, opportunists to create a narrative by using that exact same sentiment. I've been warning against this for quite some time, okay? It's terrifying. It is a very dangerous gamble.
Regaining his image as an international statesman. It's all about the Congress cheering and applauding.
I've been to Israel and seen the apartheid firsthand. It only made me more radically anti-Zionist. I have had arguments with family members and eventually stopped going to my Reform temple, which was super progressive except for Israel, of course. I hate what this is doing to the Jewish people, where in order to be considered a Jew, you have to support a genocide. Yeah, there's a lot of people got to remember simply saying I was Palestinian was broadly considered anti-Semitic. Yeah. If you said Palestinians are human, you were declared anti-Semitic for a very long time. It sounds like really weird with today's eyes. Okay. It sounds really fucking weird with today's eyes. When you look at it now, you're like, well, come on, you're fucking out of your mind. But like, no, that literally is a thing. But now when Israel tries that shit, people obviously have a negative reaction to it. And that's why I said, this is not 2014. This is not 2015. When you come to U.S. Congress right now and try that same message, try that same method, thinking that you're going to get that same reception from the American public, you are wrong. I think that this will cause a lot of voters to be like, what the fuck are we doing? Okay? What the fuck are we doing right now? Note, had observed Senator John Ossoff walking out on Prime Minister Netanyahu's speech to Congress. I'm told Ossoff thought the Prime Minister had concluded his remarks and left the vote before going to a meeting. Coward. Come on, Ossoff. You popped off. You popped off way before everybody else on Israel's actions. Have some fucking backbone. I've had the 90% of Jews are Zionists used against me. Where the fuck does that idea even come from? There are a couple different reasons for why that number flies around. Because some people cynically, and some people cynically, and some people in a way that is oblivious say Zionism means this, Zionism means that. There is a lot of purposeful muddying of the waters in terms of what Zionism means. Okay? That's it. That's where that comes from. So some people who are very critical and even consider Israel to be an apartheid state will say that, right? They'll be like, oh, well, everyone's a Zionist in my circle, or all Jews I know are Zionists, or all Jews are Zionists. Some of those studies are deployed in an effort to try and cynically weaponize the anti-Zionism is anti-Semitism narrative. Okay. And the reality is The reality is, one, and I've reiterated this position a lot. Even if 100% of American Jews were anti-Zionist, okay, America would still be firmly committed to the defend Israel at all costs narrative, okay, both politically and as a mechanism for America's State Department agenda. Do you understand? Even if in a world where 100% of American Jews were like anti-Zionist, it still wouldn't change the equation from the American government's perspective. Why? Because Israel is a vassal state for the West. Israel is an unsinkable aircraft carrier with its own espionage facilities, with its own surveillance technology. Israel is one mechanism to control the Suez Canal. Do you understand? It's very important. It's a destabilizing factor in a resource-rich region. That's why it's so fucking important for America and was important for the UK before the United States of America. Okay? From a political perspective, in terms of domestic policy, why would America still continue defending Israel unconditionally, even if all Jews were anti-Zionist, like rabidly anti-Zionist, okay? Protesting in the streets every day. Because there are far more ultra-Zionists in the South. Evangelical Christianity believes in the rapture. And evangelical Christians, those mega churches that you see in the South, filled to the fucking brim with people who are themselves very anti-Semitic, believe that all the Jews need to go to Israel so that Jesus Christ can come back down to earth and fight the devil in Megiddo. It sounds like fucking anime when I explain it like this, but this is a very real thing that tens of millions of Americans believe. Do you understand? Not even tens of millions, more than 10 million Americans. Significantly larger numbers. It's so nutty. But the biggest constituency for pro-Israel sentiment in this country are not Jews. It's actually evangelical Christians, okay? They are the largest donators to the settlement, to the 501c3s that actually facilitate the sales and the death and destruction of Palestinians in the West Bank and occupied territories. Do you understand? It's Christians who believe in this cultish, psychopathic, biblical interpretation that the rapture can only happen if Israel only is given to the Jews. Okay? Yeah. Here is our 95% of Jews really Zionists. 2 weeks ago, the writer Barry Weiss published an essay in Tablet. Fuck Barry Weiss, by the way. Another fucking rabid freak. To support her point, she noted that 95% of Jews support the Jewish state. This statistic is commonly repeated in Jewish and mainstream media. This year, it's been cited in several opinion pieces. This is from 2020, by the way. Remember, from Jewish Currents, phenomenal magazine. Couple of my friends right there, as you guys know. Anyway, fuck Barry Weiss. Barry Weiss is a donkey. This year, it's been cited in several opinion pieces and peer-reviewed academic article. Last year, among various appearances, showed in the Wall Street Journal, a New York Times letter to editor, and a JTA op-ed. The statistic originates from a 2019 article by Gallup senior scientist Frank Newport. In response to Donald Trump's controversial comments that American Jewish Democrats are being disloyal to Israel, Newport set out to examine Jews' political views. Drawing on polling data from Gallup and other news organizations, he contended that Jews generally have more favorable views of Israel than the broader American public, but nonetheless concluded that Trump's actions, have done little to shift Jews' largely Democratic political allegiance to support the former point. He included an estimate that 95% of Jews have favorable views of Israel. However, as Newport noted in his article, the estimate was not based on a representative survey of American Jews. Not only is this old at this point, not only is this old at this point, this data is old at this point because it's like pre-October 7, It's pre like so many Americans, especially young American Jews, changing their opinions on Israel and recalculating their relationship to what they have actually seen and heard now versus what they were taught early on. In an email to Jewish Currents, the new report confirmed his methodology for reaching the 95% figure. He identified 128 people who described their religion as Jewish in broader studies and used that subsample for his calculation. He estimated that the margin of error for his calculation was between 7 and 10%, explaining, with small sample size, there's a significant margin of error. Yet the statistic is rarely described in its context as Newport's back-of-the-envelope estimate, based on only 128 Jewish by religion respondents over 5 years. Instead, it's regularly repeated as a truism. You want to know why? Because previous calculations would allow this, would reinforce the narrative that Israel is a Jewish state. Okay? That's why. There needs to be new studies conducted on the matter. And some have been conducted on the matter. Okay? Some studies have been conducted on the matter that show that, especially in the 18 to 35 demographic of American Jews, their loyalty to Israel is, or their criticisms of Israel are damn near identical to the rest of the country. Okay? With every other demographic in the nation. But why? Why does this get so much fucking coverage? Because it provides ample cover to the sentiment that if you're anti-Zionist, that means you're going up against 95% of Jews. That means you're anti-Semitic. Okay? Explain that to Ethan. He's spreading it. I don't care. I don't know why you guys keep doing this. Like, Ethan himself has been very critical of the state of Israel and has even called it an apartheid state far before October 7. Okay? Like, match your expectations. I don't know why you, like, of course Ethan is going to feel this way or repeat this without examining the fucking data when, like, everyone fucking from anti-Semites to pro-Israel anti-Semites and Jewish people alike use this as a fucking way to be like, well, I guess you're anti-Semitic if you're anti-Zionist. Okay? You have to remember, people have the capacity to be duped by numbers. That's the reason why this shit works so well. That's the reason why people spend a fuck ton of money on this. Okay? I don't know why everybody always comes in here and is like, address this person's comments on the matter. Like, I don't know. I don't know what his actual opinions are. I haven't kept up. But it's like, it's so obvious to me that you only care about this from the angle of like trying to create drama and not necessarily like the actual issue on the hand. When I'm talking about something and you just bring up something entirely unrelated, please stop.
The Israeli Prime Minister, it's all about his polished English. It's all about impressing the Israelis that he is what he used to be.
This is old too.
A prime minister that would be banned almost in any other capital in.
Yeah, this is also old. This is from 2021. U.S. Jews have widely differing views on Israel. And this in and of itself shows that the 18 to 35 demographic of Jewish adults also have differing opinions. I think it's like 48% or something. Where is it? 60% of Jews overall say they have a lot or something in common with Jews in Israel. Orthodox Jews, 91%, are more likely than conservative Jews. Reform Jews, 61%. And those who don't identify with any branch, 39% express this feeling. Where is it? Press briefing is live.
Television to make your first comments about that decision rather than make
I appreciate that. We've always had a protocol here. When the president's not here, we don't do a briefing.
Anyway, where is it? Jewish Americans look at age gaps. While Orthodox Jews tend to be relatively young and feel a strong attachment to Israel, younger Jews as a whole are less attached to Israel than their older counterparts. 2/3 of Jews aged 65 and older say they are very or somewhat emotionally attached to Israel, compared to 48% of those aged 18 to 29. And you have to remember, they also mentioned this, Orthodox Jews tend to be relatively young. And in spite of that, and I'm willing to bet that like the overwhelming majority of that 48% is Orthodox Jews that say they feel a strong attachment to Israel. And for the record, a strong emotional attachment to the state of Israel does not necessarily mean that they are like fucking pro-Israel's actions in Gaza, or even pro-Israel being an ethno-state. So you have to remember that as well. So there is no like good, decent, recent polling on the matter. I'm a Zoomer Jew and I'm not a Zionist. Guess that's how I ended up here. Yeah, there are plenty. I talked about Chris Murphy already. Yes, Chris Murphy said it was a setback for Israel-U.S. relations. A lot of people are very critical of Benjamin Netanyahu's speech, understandably, and I do hope that they push this. They push this on partisan lines at the very least. U.S. Jews aged 18 to 34 divided over whether Israel's response to Hamas' October 7 attack is acceptable. Percentage of Jewish Americans who say the way Hamas carried out his attack on October 7 unacceptable. Percentage of Jewish Americans who say Israel's carrying out his response to attack is unacceptable. 42% to 52%. Wait, where is the rest of this? I want to see like the actual data broke down. Oh, 18 to 34. Ages 18 to 34, 42% say unacceptable, 52% say acceptable. This is in April. Boomers were forced to grow up protecting their values no matter what, giving them more reason to hate the other side and fuel the fire. Why won't the majority condemn this shit, especially young people? You have to remember, a lot of young Jews are Orthodox Jews that are significantly more conservative. With the exception of Netzari Karta, which is like an ultra-Orthodox Jewish sect, there are a lot of very far-right Orthodox Jews in the United States of America, and they're very young. So the 18 to 35 numbers are muddied by that. And even then, it's still 42%, which is, again, this is in February. It was published in April. Yeah, it's fine. Remember, this is my point overall is that this is almost identical to every other fucking demographic split. And it's correct. Southern evangelical Baptists often import Israelis to preach in their churches, all for rapturism. I live in the Deep South in a town with 70K with over 100 evangelical Baptist churches. It's scary as fuck to be Palestinian here. Yeah. Netzari Karta are good on being anti-Zionist Jews and nothing else. It's true. Yeah. My fam is Orthodox, and if they knew I was anti-Zionist, they'd most likely shun me. And I know I'm not the only one in this situation. Yeah. I mean, there's plenty of Hasanabi heads in here as well that feel this way. So something you have to remember, something you have to fucking remember, once again, is that people that say this is monolithic in their interpretation are wrong. Okay? They're completely wrong. And this is happening with like a groundswell of media defense. So the fact that 42% of young American Jews under the age of 35 consider Israel's actions post October 7th to be bad in the month of February is an insane number. Okay? Because that's in spite of the programming and just that's in spite of the programming and social conditioning that you get from every aspect of your development. Okay? Like the amount of propaganda on that front is unimaginable. You cannot understand it. Like most Americans don't think about this shit. It's an afterthought. But if you're growing up in a Jewish community, it's not an afterthought. It's every part of your existence. It is carefully crafted. It is carefully crafted propaganda. Fucking birthright is like one of the most significant aspects of this process. It's every day. That's why so many members in this community have talked about like Jewish Hasanabi heads have talked about like the alienation that they feel from their fucking friends and family members because of their opinion on Israel. Like they just treat you like you're a former Mormon at that point. They just like break you. They just break off from all sense of community that you've experienced when you're growing up. It's wild. Part of a Reformed Jewish congregation who does volunteer work with other Christian groups, and they're always riding for Israel way harder than any of the Jewish people in my congregation are. It's honestly kind of weird. Yeah. I've been called a terrorist by other Jews for calling for a ceasefire. Yeah. I went to Jewish summer camps type thing, and they made us talk to IDF soldiers. Yeah, it's in every aspect. It's in every aspect. Abi Türkçeyi nereden öğrendin? Türkiye'de öğrendim abi. Türkiye'de büyüdüm. 18 yaşına kadar. This guy asked me where I learned Turkish. I feel so isolated as an anti-Zionist Israeli. Seeing all my friends join the IDF is fucked. I lucked out so I'm disabled and didn't have to. Yeah, there's also a big constituency of anti-Zionist Jewish Israeli Hasanabi heads as well. Like pretty much every single one. But you know, to be fair to them, I don't think they can get a lot of anti-Zionist coverage inside of Israel at this point, considering that fucking Al Jazeera was banned too. So this is the only way that Israeli Jews can ever watch Al Jazeera coverage. By my count, roughly 100 of the 2012 House Democrats and 27 of the 51 Senate Democrats and Dem caucusing independents are in the chamber for Netanyahu's speech. That's around half of each caucus absent. Okay? I'm willing to bet if Bibi tried to pull this shit off on like October 10, I mean, it would have been wild, obviously. But if he tried to pull this shit off on October 10, that would be 100%, right? Everyone will be there. But 9 months in, 10 months in to Israel's ongoing ethnic cleansing campaign in Gaza, look at those fucking numbers. And yeah, Talib went just to protest with the sign as well. Verified to being the only pro-Palestinian Jew in my extremely Zionist family, and I have a wedding to go to this year where my cousin in the IDF will be there. My family treats me like I'm disowning them. Genuinely, what do I do? Just remember that you have support here. You have support in other communities. Like there are plenty of anti-Zionist Jews. There are plenty of anti-Zionists in general. You can maintain solidarity that way, you know? So, isn't it disheartening that Kamala will still meet with him behind closed doors? Yes, we shall see. We shall see what she says to him.
Benjamin Netanyahu.
But more importantly than what she says to him privately, I want to know what she says publicly. If she comes out of the gates swinging against Israel, I think that's a phenomenal thing. Okay? I don't know if she'll do it, but I do want to. I'm holding out hope. I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait to see what she does. But I do think that, one, it's a good thing to do, obviously, from a morality perspective, from my own personal biases in the matter. But it's also a good thing to do electorally, okay? So please, hitting the Israel issue on and turning it into a partisan issue is genuinely a good thing for the Democrats. They have to do it. This is a layup. This is a fucking layup for the Democrats. You will pick up even more support from the youth if you continue this, okay? You have a lot of momentum. You have a lot of young door knockers that have signed on to the campaign immediately after the revelation that Biden is no longer running and that Kamala Harris is going to be the candidate. Keep up this fucking momentum. Do not cut it down. Do not cut down this fucking momentum.
History has become a nominee of his party based on the primary process that went forward and is declining to accept the nomination of his party when the party convenes next month in Chicago. So that's a big difference. We've never seen something like that in history.
It is politically savvy to do so.
We've never seen somebody bow out this late in a presidential cycle. So that makes this a very different moment from 1968. And we hear this all the time, this term, Jim, but an unprecedented moment in American history. After that determinative performance that was proved disastrous to Biden's reelection efforts, that's another unprecedented moment that we have seen.
And that is one of the differences
what is
here,
this?
right? In that LBJ.
Genuine question, like no harm meant by this. I'm genuinely wondering what you think. Where do you think if Israel as a state is abolished and if Palestinian state is fully established as it should be, Israeli citizens will be asked to go? I think this is a concern a lot of people have about a state solution. I'm curious what you think. I believe that Israel is currently, as it stands, a singular state. It is simply an apartheid state, right? No, don't get mad at this person saying genuinely curious. I believe that they are genuinely curious, okay? Israel, as it stands, is one state, okay? It's simply an apartheid state. I advocate to abolish said apartheid, okay? I advocate to abolish said apartheid. This does not mean that like all Jews will be purged from this land, okay? That's not what this means at all. As a matter of fact, Israeli settlements have made it impossible not to advocate for a one-state solution. If there was a point for a two-state solution, it is long gone. As a consequence of the so-called peace process that was supposed to achieve benefits for Palestinian sovereignty, and instead of doing that, all it did was basically create an opportunity for Benjamin Netanyahu and the Israeli government to continue rapidly accelerating settlements and creating even a more diminished Palestinian state in occupied West Bank. So ultimately, my solution is having a goal where Palestinians, Israelis, Jewish, Christian, Muslim, doesn't matter, live side by side with equal rights and equal representation in that land. Okay? Some Palestinians might not be in favor of this. So many Israelis are certainly not in favor of this. But ultimately, that is the right thing to do. And that is, in my opinion, the only way to create permanent security for everyone living in that region. Because the alternative in a two-state solution for 1967 borders, as was declared just by the ICJ this past week, didn't get a lot of coverage in the media because we were all hyper-focused on the obvious domestic clown show that was occurring. But the way to create two states on 67 boundaries would imply the expulsion of 750,000 Jews from the West Bank. Okay, children, men, women. That in and of itself is also going to be a very violent process. Okay, now you might say tough titties, you shouldn't have fucking built there. You shouldn't have settled there. But I'm thinking about this as a realistic solution. That will never happen. Do you understand? In spite of the illegality of said settlement process, it still doesn't change the calculation in terms of 750,000 people being moved from one location to the next. That can only happen in uniquely brutal ways. Israel did it in 1968, or not in 1968. Sorry, in 1948. Did you get Iranian money? Yeah, you know me. I'm the IRGC's. We can't do to them. Caprice on Poppy, who is Palestinian, says we can't do to them what they did to us. It would be extremely cruel. Now, in terms of what I look at, it's history, right? Like what has happened in these situations in the past. You had the Reconstruction, which was a failed project, and the abolition of slavery that came in the aftermath of the abolition of slavery, right? And that led to, wait, hold on. Oh, Felix is going to be here soon. Felix is coming up today. Yeah, Felix Biederman, not XUC. Anyway, we're going to move on. We're going to move on to some Kamala Harris stuff that's going on as well. Do you think Israel would ever give up land to create a contiguous Palestinian state and make up for the West Bank land stolen? No, absolutely not. Anyway, these are all issues that I've addressed a million times over. Just go to my YouTube and search Israel, Palestine, or Gaza, okay? And you will find hundreds of videos on the matter. I have covered it so many times with academics, with journalists, with activists, with members of the Israeli Knesset, with conscientious objectors to the Israeli Defense Force, the Israeli occupying force. Oh, wait, I didn't know you work for Air Wars. Air Wars investigation documents where and how 3,000 civilians were killed in the first weeks of the war in Gaza. The findings show the initial Palestinian Ministry of Health death toll to be largely reliable. Yeah, I saw this earlier. Air Wars used open source monitoring to independently identify nearly 3,000 full names of civilians killed in the first 17 days of the war. The article lists all of these victims from the first time, each linked to individual reports detailing where and how they were killed. In the largest public analysis of date of the reliability of the data from the Palestinian Ministry of Health, Air Wars researchers compared the 3,000 victims' names to those on the official Ministry of Health list of victims. In total, they found that 75% of all publicly identified names also appeared on the MOH list of victims. Civilian harm expert Michael Spagat said this showed clearly both documentation efforts were rigorous. This painstaking research provides strong validation for both the first Ministry of Health list of the dead and the reliability of social media posts from Palestinians. Now, did this need to happen? Not necessarily. I mean, yes, for all of the genocide heirs and all the genocide deniers, but this is something that I have said time and time again. This is just further proof of the reliability of the Ministry of Health in this, in terms of the death toll, and specifically because the death toll, the official death toll from the Palestinian Ministry of Health, is not just used by Hamas or whatever. It's actually also used by Israel. Israel has the population registry and 24/7 surveillance over the Gaza Strip. If they wanted to actually cut through the supposed Hamas propaganda in terms of the death toll, they could do so. If the death toll wasn't accurate, they could so easily be like, here is one of the people, here is 100 of the people that you said were dead, and they're walking around in the Gaza Strip today. Do you understand? Yeah. And a big reminder to the deteriorating, diminished capabilities of our fucking dumbass genocidal president, Joseph Robinette Biden. He, in his demented sentiment, expressed serious, not even, I wouldn't even say serious condemnation. He just straight up said they're lies. Like, he didn't believe the Hamas-backed Ministry of Health. And the fucking dog shit media ran with that narrative for months. And still to this day, they always say Hamas-backed Palestinian Health Ministry. There was never a moment in the history of the Palestinian Health Ministry where the U.S. State Department, the Israeli government, and numerous international organizations of justice have looked at the Palestinian Health Ministry death toll and said, this death toll is inaccurate by our own estimation. As a matter of fact, time and time again, they go back and check those numbers and repeat the reality that they are reliable in spite of the fact that they're constantly under siege. That, paired up with the lies about like setting babies on fire with kerosene, babies and mothers on fire with kerosene, have caused irreparable harm.
Conciliatory language, right, to the criticism of civilian casualties. He spoke about the conduct of operations in Gaza, claiming that there were virtually no civilian casualties there. There have been consistent questions about the amount of food, humanitarian aid getting into Gaza. He says it is not Israel's fault, that it is entirely Hamas's fault. So deflecting that criticism, and then, as you say, this is a country right now that is quite publicly debating its relationship with Israel and the conduct of the war, most visibly with those public protests that we're seeing taking place just outside the Capitol here today. But he goes all in and accuses all of those protesters who, we should note, having spent time among those protesters that are quite a diverse group, but saying all of them are Hamas supporters and all of them, in effect, are doing Iran's bidding. So that is his reaction to it.
That's me.
Paula, you and I have
He's
covered
talking
him
about
for
me, backed by the IRGC. You know what I'm saying? That way I can gift subs at the top of the hour to everyone that wants to experience an uninterrupted broadcast experience. You know what I mean? Yeah, anytime somebody's gifting subs in here, know that it's probably backed by a mullah. It's probably a mullah themselves. You know? At the top of the hour, there's a 3-minute ad break. If you no longer want to see those ads, all you need to do is subscribe for $6 or for free with a Twitch Prime. King Leopold Blotto Deal IV gifting 20 gifted subs from the IRGC. Penzias with 5 gifted subs from the IRGC. Here's a 3-minute ad break now, by the way. Pray to Allah if you want to get an Iranian mullah to gift you a sub. Spitting Nichols, Lifey, thank you for the 5 gifted. Not exactly KB, thank you for the 5 gifted as well.
The Israeli side, with some doubts expressed about how invested the Israeli prime minister is in those talks. So it is expected that President Biden will give him a push to get that deal finished before the end of Biden's term. Kamala Harris, perhaps, I don't want to say a difficult meeting, but Kamala Harris, one of the first senior officials in this country, Democratic Party leaders, to come out publicly and criticize the conduct of the war in Gaza for the large number of civilian casualties. So you can expect that that won't be entirely a warm embrace. And then Donald Trump. They've had their personal differences, but they have also, as you heard from Netanyahu,
Cunt Cubine, they give you the 5 gifted subs.
Relationship. Netanyahu praising Trump for instance, moving the U.S. embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, overturning a long-held U.S. policy, and also for his steadfast support for Israel. So I think you could see the potential there for them perhaps burying the hatchet and moving forward. But it also shows the difficulty for an Israeli leader. There's a quite contested U.S. election coming up. And based on the results of that election, you would have a different approach to Israel. Not an end of the relationship, certainly not an end of the alliance, but perhaps with a Democratic president, more of a willingness to criticize Israeli policy.
Yeah, we will see how he fares in the next few days, as you said, especially as he gears up for those meetings. Jim Sciutto, really appreciate you having on board there as we parse the
This is once again a unique opportunity for Kamala to when there is so much interest in what she is going to do, when there's so much momentum, so much youth mobilization, Okay, it is very important for Kamala Harris not to fuck this up. Okay, this is a perfect opportunity to even talk about it from a partisan framework. The fact that she did not attend this meeting is good. Okay, the fact that she did not go to the speech is good. It's bullshit. Like, oh, she had to go to a fraternity meeting or whatever. That's silly. That's like somewhat of a cowardly way to boycott it while still boycotting the speech, right? Well, not boycotting, but like refusing to attend the speech. No way she's saying like free Palestine though. No, I'm not. That's not my expectation. Once again, I'm always setting my expectations to what like the position is by the broader American Congress.
Has unfolded, trying to not only just defend the conduct of Israeli forces in Gaza, but really going beyond that, not even acknowledging some of the errors, mistakes that the Israeli military itself has acknowledged. And doing so, we should note, to overwhelming applause from U.S. lawmakers. The Israeli prime minister, at several points, tried to push back on key criticism.
You're
of
grading
Israel.
on a curve in Israel? Yes, I am. I am grading on a curve when it comes to like support or criticism of Israel. Yes.
Arrest warrants for the Israeli prime minister, accusing the Israeli government of starving people in Gaza. And while the Israeli prime minister threw out a bunch of numbers about the number of aid trucks that have gotten into Gaza, what he didn't talk about is the clear and convincing evidence that humanitarian aid organizations talk about on the ground, which is that Israel simply has not allowed enough aid in, hasn't done enough to provide safe routes for those aid trucks to actually get in, to deconflict those routes with Israeli military activities. And we've also seen the ways in which Israel can turn on and off the spigot of aid depending on the political moment in which it finds itself. He also tried to claim that Israel is effectively has one of the best civilian to combatant ratios in the world, citing this expert, the only expert that he's ever cited on this issue, a man named John Spencer at West Point. I can tell you I've talked to a number of military experts in terms of civilian casualties in warfare, and they all say that it's very clear that that Israel simply does not do as much as most modern militaries do to reduce the number of civilian casualties, that the number of civilians killed per strike in Gaza is far higher than when you compare it, for example, to the U.S.'s bombing campaign in Syria, which was not viewed as a positive from a U.S. military point of view. Now, beyond these kind of individual fact checks, I think overall what was clear is that the Israeli prime minister was trying to strike a very bipartisan tone as he tried to defend Israel, tried to prop up support for Israel, and he tried to really bring the United States in, trying to make the case that Israel's fight in Gaza, Israel's fight against Hamas, which he then broadened out to Israel's fight against Iran, is really not only an Israeli fight, but an American fight, saying this is your fight too. And as he was doing so, what he focused on more than anything, at a time when these negotiations are still ongoing, U.S. and Israeli officials indicating that a deal might be within reach, he didn't really focus on that potential ceasefire agreement. He focused far, far more on this notion of defeating Hamas, vowing multiple times that Israel will continue to fight until...
Here's Chris Murphy. Once again, he's like a pretty fucking aggressive foreign policy hawk. Just left Netanyahu's speech. I've spent my career fighting for a strong U.S.-Israel relationship. I want Hamas defeated. That speech was, as I expected, a setback for both the U.S.-Israel relationship and the fight against Hamas. The speech was more a commentary of U.S. politics rather than a path forward for Israeli and U.S. security. The suggestion that any American who objects to the humanitarian catastrophe in Gaza is a Hamas sympathizer was way out of bounds. The downplaying of the humanitarian crisis was astonishing to hear. The truth is that the civilian deaths in Gaza will be a bulletin board recruiting material for terrorists for years. That hurts Israel and the U.S. It was a speech designed to bolster Netanyahu's political standing and U.S. Republican messaging. Netanyahu would have been better off spending this time finalizing a deal to bring the hostages home and end the war instead of coming here to comment on U.S. politics. I'm actually stunned the coverage is not total shit. I mean, like I said, it's a very different time, man. It's a very different time.
It's a pleasure to be with you, Paula. I think that there are two main themes here. On one, it is conciliatory, and that is that Netanyahu was extremely careful to stay out of the American political context right now.
Bullshit.
He was equally positive, equally thankful to both Republicans and Democrats very carefully.
Come on, bro. He hyped up Donald Trump. Get out of here.
So that he avoided the pitfall of getting dragged into this American presidential election period. But beyond that, and I think that both of your correspondents were quite accurate in the way they characterized his comments. Not a word about the Palestinian, innocent Palestinian civilians, not a word about any positive image, not only of the current conflict, but of what comes afterwards. His only talk was about a Gaza that's disarmed and de-radicalized, he said, but still under constant Israeli security control. Nothing about what happens afterwards, nothing about anything that's positive. Some of the things that he said were clearly not true. And of course, he smeared just about everybody, no matter how sincere they were, smeared everybody who has expressed concern about the situation in Gaza, calling them pro-Hamas or Iranian useful idiots. This is not a way to build up support, nor is it a way that he's going to bring Americans together in support of where Israel is right now.
Yeah, and notable, in fact, that some of those protesters are not just Jewish. Many of them are just peace activists who want Hamas to release the hostages and equally would like the suffering to end for those in Gaza. I want to ask you, though, as regards to U.S. Middle East policy, where does someone like President Biden go now with this? Because he is going to be in a room behind closed doors. Do you believe that the president now, the fact that he is not running again, do you believe this makes him a little bit more free to perhaps be a bit tougher with Netanyahu and get him to that ceasefire deal?
Well, I think that there's no question that the president is going to continue to press Netanyahu to be more forward-leaning, more cooperative in trying to end the Gaza conflict, end the humanitarian disaster in Gaza. Think a little bit more about what comes afterwards. For the president, it's not only a question of his own legacy, but it's also understanding that, particularly within the Democratic base, he needs to bring people along because their willingness to vote for Kamala Harris is going to depend an awful lot on whether they think that he's doing what he needs to do, not only to protect Israel, but also to do something favorable for the Palestinians. So he's going to continue to press. Whether or not he's ready to really put his foot down with Netanyahu, and whether that means anything to Netanyahu is an open question.
And what do you believe will come of the meeting with Donald Trump? I mean, at this point in time, this is, I have to remind anyone, a very close election that is upcoming. He definitely went out of his way, Netanyahu, to praise the Trump administration and the former president himself. What do you believe will be the contours of that meeting on Friday?
Well, it's going to be very interesting to see because, as your correspondent pointed out, even though Donald Trump was probably willing to go much farther.
Biden is addressing the nation tonight. All right, we're going to move on from this. Let's get to Lindsey Graham talking about Kamala flunking the first test of being president.
Here with reaction, Senator Lindsey Graham, the great state of South Carolina. I have a question for Kamala Harris and other Democrats like Patty Murray and many of your colleagues, Senator, and idiots like George Clooney and his wife. What part of murder, rape, kidnapping, torture, beheadings do they not understand? Because this terror attack, if you extrapolate out Israel's population compared to ours,
Dude, I mean, there's something really, I will say this once again, there's something very funny about the way that Fox News talks about Israel, about the way that like right-wingers talk about Israel. Like there's a lot of content creators online who try to be as edgy as they physically possibly can be, including like content creators who are basically like Nazi adjacent. But like when it comes down to it, like in terms of my sentiment against Israel, those guys who are literally aligned with Nazis, who like hype up Nazis, will turn around and be like, Hamas Abi, I can't believe how anti-Semitic Hamas Abi is because he said Israel is doing a genocide. It's like, bro, You can't posture like a 68-year-old neocon while simultaneously every other thing you're doing is like so edgy and ooh, you're being attacked for your free speech. Like, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. You see that from so many dudes online that try to present themselves as like, free speech advocates that are constantly under attack by like trans activists or whatever the fuck, who then turn around and posture like the most hysterical social justice warrior when it comes to the issue of Israel, right? It is so unimaginably inconsistent where they just immediately turn around and go, oh, dude, what are you saying? What are you saying? This level of anti-Semitism cannot go on. What the fuck? It's so hilarious to watch. Personally, I think it's very funny to watch because, once again, it is a clear-cut demonstration that like absolutely zero people have like full-blown free speech principles, with the exception of like maybe 5 people. Nazis on Twitter think that this doesn't go hard. What? Okay, I don't care about that. Yeah. Edgelords crumble when you reveal them as snowflakes. But yeah, literally, there's like all these people. Like, I remember there was that one like alcoholic dude who was like constantly on the verge of offing himself. What's his fucking name? He's like Mutant Monster Groiper or something. I was reminded of his account's existence by Edinger Mentum the other day, who posted specifically about like Kamala Harris getting owned by Donald Trump. Like, it'll be so exciting to watch like a black woman get fucking destroyed or whatever. Like, just, repugnant racist shit, right? But like that guy, including like the Red Scare people and whatever, like that guy, including like the Red Scare people, are always such pussies. Like, they try to present themselves as like edgy contrarians when it comes to white supremacist nonsense. But then immediately on the issue of Israel, they turn into like the biggest fucking soy social justice warriors. It's so funny. It's hilarious to watch, in my opinion. I think it's like, just, watch them fucking chirp about how scary the sentiment is that you're saying that like Israel can't be an ethno state.
That would be the equivalent of 40,000 dead Americans in a day. What part of that is this wing of her party missing?
That's a really good question. Here's my view on this. Everybody who wants to kill the state of Israel and all the Jews and wipe it off the map.
Dude, Lindsey Graham is my favorite Israel dick rider because he is so ferocious, okay? Like, he loves bouncing on that dick up and down. He loves contorting himself. It's not even blowing bubbles at this point. It's far beyond blowing bubbles. Like, we're not even talking about guzzling. Remember, Lindsey Graham famously said that he trusts the Israeli Defense Force more than he trusts the American military. Like, that level of dick riding, that level of dick eating, the throat goat himself. And no, I am not being homophobic because Lindsey Graham is a secretly in the closet gay man. I'm just simply using this as a term of reference in terms of his defense of Israel. Okay? Yeah. Lindsey Graham still can't get married in Israel. Okay? Israel. Am Israel high.
Map wants to kill us too. We're the great Satan. So I don't understand why we would pick a group of people who would actually want to kill us. Now, she's the de facto nominee for the Democratic Party in 2024. This is an astounding bad decision not to appear behind Bibi as Vice President of the United States.
I can't believe that Kamala Harris is not participating in the most democratic speech ever made. The most moral nation on the country, Israel. Israel's the most moral nation, the absolute best nation on the country. Okay? Am Israel high. I wish, with all my heart, I wish I was Israeli. Okay? I think about it every day. Now, of course, I'd have to go to Cyprus real quick for a trip if I wanted to live La Vida Loca in Israel, if I wanted to get married to my life partner, and then maybe I'd be fine. Okay? And of course, if I visit the West Bank, you got teenagers spitting on me because I'm Christian. But, we could fix that. I love Israel. I love Israel more than I love America. Okay? That's right.
This is a signal to Hamas, Hezbollah, and Iran that we literally do not have Bibi's back. This is really her first major foreign policy decision, and she's gotten an F. She's so worried about the Hamas wing of the Democratic Party, she cannot sit behind the Prime Minister of Israel, our best ally in the region, one of the best in the world. It's not only despicable, it's really a bad decision. She's thrown gasoline on the cause of Hamas, Hezbollah, and Iran by doing this.
I take it a step further. In my view, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, when they would not support Israel's right to win their war against radical Islamic terrorists.
Dude, just substitute Israel with like Saudi Arabia, okay? That's my favorite thing. It's like substitute Israel with like Lithuania, any country, Estonia. It's like, I cannot believe how unconscionable it is that these guys, these disgusting cretins, are not offering full-throated support to the nation state of Estonia. Okay? It's just like, what are you saying? What are you fucking saying right now? Like, why should they? Like, why is that already like beyond the pale? Like, we've moved on. Like that, it's a given that we have to do it, right? We have to do it. And that premise is never even addressed. You know what I mean? That premise is never addressed. Like, why the fuck? Why should the American president and the American vice president offer the most unimaginable amounts of support to a foreign nation like this? Why? Like, what do you mean?
Hamas attacked them. Hamas killed their citizens.
For the record, this also doesn't even go with fucking Ukraine, okay? Ukraine is in a defensive posture against a larger nation that has invaded it, okay? So on the morality front, obviously an allegiance with Ukraine is very different from a moral calculation. An allegiance with Ukraine is very different than an allegiance with Israel, right? Having said that, however, even if they did this for Ukraine, which they do the exact opposite for Ukraine, by the way, maybe not Lindsey Graham, but like Fox News on the regular is like, what the fuck are we doing? Like, why are we giving so much money to Ukraine? Why are we giving so much money to Ukraine? Why are we giving so much money to Ukraine? And then they fucking literally turn around and they're like, if you do not say Am Israel Chai 4 times when you first wake up in the morning and then commit to giving $4 billion of weapons to Israel, then you are an anti-Semite and I want to put you in jail. I want to execute you for treason. Like, what are you saying? What are you saying? Who's the fucking junior partner in this coalition? Who? Like, are we? Why do they get to dog walk us? Like, what do you mean? You're Fox News. Like, what are we talking about, man? It's so weird.
Citizens, raped their citizens, beheaded their citizens, kidnapped their citizens. That, to me, is a complete surrender. Joe and Kamala surrendered in the war on terrorism, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, they surrendered to the radical left. Now, this is what you need to...
No, totally, dude. God, I wish. Yeah. Joe Biden has basically done everything but execute a Palestinian child on television, okay? What are you talking about? What the fuck are you talking about, dude? Joe Biden has done everything, okay? Like, there is not a single thing that Joe Biden is not... There's not a single moment where Joe Biden hasn't been, like, unconditionally Israel's most loyal soldier. And it's not even just, like, this iteration of Israel's brutal campaign in Gaza. It's, like, throughout the history of Israel. Joe Biden was alive when Israel wasn't a thing, okay? And he has always kept up this energy in terms of his relentless dick riding of Israel.
understand. I wish everybody in America could watch her show. She's the most liberal senator I've known since I've been in the Senate. She's the most liberal person in the history of America to ever receive a party's nomination for President of the United States. She signed up for the Green New Deal, Medicare for all. There's no liberal horse that she won't ride. So she's picked the radical left Hamas wing of the party. She's afraid to offend them. She's more afraid of them than standing up for our friends in Israel. This is a chillingly bad decision. It empowers the enemies of Israel. It makes America weaker in the eyes of our allies. I cannot tell you, she flunked.
Yeah, this argument is so funny because it's like, yeah, what do you think makes America look weaker? Okay? Not being able to fucking rein in their goddamn attack dog as the most arrogant, entitled piece of shit on the fucking planet gets to come to America in the eve of an ICC decision that has declared him under the Rome Statute countries a war criminal that must be apprehended instantly. Like, he couldn't give that speech in Germany right now. You understand? Germany loves dick riding Israel too, but he would not be able to give that speech in Germany. He would not be able to, once the ICC application is processed, he will not be able to go to any European country. Okay? And he's so comfortable fucking dog walking American leadership while Israel as a nation would cease to exist without unconditional American support. My tax dollars are funding Israel's security, man. What are we talking about? As an American citizen, I find that abhorrent and unconscionable, okay? It's ridiculous. And every American has a right to say, nah, fuck that. We're not invested in this. What are we doing here?
The first test of trying to be president of the United States by picking the Hamas wing of the Democratic Party, pleasing them more than standing behind the Prime Minister of Israel. This is a chillingly bad decision.
Let me ask you this. I know that Prime Minister Netanyahu will be making his way down to Palm Beach and meeting with President Trump at Mar-a-Lago. Yeah. There's never been a president more supportive of Israel than Donald J. Trump. You know, he moved, obviously, the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. It's proper home. On every single level, he supported them. And I'll even go a step further. I don't think Hamas ever would have attacked Israel. I don't think Iran would have fired missiles into Israel had Donald Trump been president. One thing I can tell you is that, you know, I don't care if it's China, Iran, North Korea, Russia. They never feared Joe Biden. They did fear Donald Trump. They won't fear Kamala Harris. They'll laugh at Kamala Harris because that's what she does half the time anyway. She giggles away, you know, her time. I don't think they'll take her seriously because I don't think she's a serious person.
Well, this decision she made not to...
I just wish with all my heart that this would be a change in the Democratic Party, a new chapter in the Democratic Party, where instead of capitulating to Republican framing, they just fight back and they go, yeah, suck my dick. Like, that's so much copium. I know it's so much copium, but like, imagine a world where they did do that. Like Andy Bashar talking about LGBTQ rights in the state of Kentucky. Okay? Just think about that. Now, Nancy Pelosi said this: Benjamin Netanyahu's presentation in the House chamber today was by far the worst presentation of any foreign dignitary invited and honored with the privilege of addressing the Congress in the United States. Many of us who love Israel spent time today listening to Israeli citizens whose families have suffered in the wake of the October 7th Hamas attack and kidnappings. These families are asking for a ceasefire deal that will bring the hostages home, and we hope the prime minister would spend his time achieving that goal. Like, these are fucking relentless Israel dick riders saying this shit, okay? This is political posturing in the good. This is political posturing in a good way. Yeah, this is Bernie-style anti-Bibi liberal Zionism. I know. But it was wild that they hadn't even done this. There was a brief moment when Chuck Schumer did this a couple months ago, and then immediately turned around and invited Benjamin Netanyahu. Just like such a... Oh, God, I can't even get over that. I can't get over that. Nancy Pelosi coming out and saying this is like decent, though, it means that, like, you know, you'll see more people in the Democratic caucuses chirping against Israel. Was this bait for Netanyahu to push Israel beyond the pale for support? I think that ultimately Israel has one fucking speed, and through 76 years of sheer arrogance and unconditional support that they've gotten from the Western world, they just don't have any way of stopping themselves and like really reconsidering their actions and how those actions are being seen by the rest of the world. Okay? Like, that's it. It's like the Republicans, right? Which, you know, you could obviously make a argument that the Republican Party and the Israeli government are aligned on a lot of ideals, specifically fascism. Okay? The thing is, it's just like the Republican Party having a hard time changing their narrative around Kamala Harris. Okay? The Republican Party keeps calling her like a black woman, an inferior, and a whore, or whatever the fuck. Meanwhile, Mike Johnson's like, please stop saying that. Okay? Please stop saying that. Please just stop. We can't keep fucking saying Kamala Harris is an inferior black woman and a whore, because that's going to make us look really bad. There's a general election coming up, and the Republicans are like, nah, fuck that. I'm going to say it extra hard. Okay? That's kind of what's going on with Israel, where like there are some liberal Zionists who are like, maybe we should dial back the fucking ethnic cleansing stuff. Like, I don't know, we're going to like lose all the support from the Western world at this rate. And everyone in Israel is like, nah, fuck that. Nope. Because that's all they know. That's all they know. They've lost the plot entirely, and they don't recognize that they're being cast aside as like a pariah state. Okay, where the calculation is very different. Can you explain how the Republicans are fascist? I mean, easily. If you personally believe in a project, of going in to brown people's communities and their homes and utilizing like a militarized police force in the form of BORTAC, in the form of CBP, and doing dragnet operations and ripping away tens of millions of people from their homes, only to process them swiftly and then engage in like mass encampments, concentrating a certain subsect of the population into camps, into detention facilities, and then purging them from the country. I mean, that's pretty Hitlerian. That's like, you know, literally the most Hitlerian thing you can do.
Damn, this guy's good.